We're going to bring the meeting to order. It's 1:34. Madam Recording Secretary. Everybody ready? Everybody good?
Yes.
All right. Ready? Good? Okay. All right. Reed, you want to lead us off today?
Yes. Heavenly Father, we're so thankful to be able to meet today with all of the residents of Mount Vernon Towers and discuss our lives. We ask you to bless us as we discuss these items that are important to so many of us. We're thankful for this beautiful day. We're thankful for our health. We're thankful for the opportunities we have. We ask you to be with us as we proceed with this meeting today. And in God's name we pray. Amen.
Madam Secretary, anything from you?
Hey, hello everyone.
Hello.
I have a mask on today, as Rita does. I have a cold, so I didn't want to infect anyone with my coughing. If you would, I just did, please silence your phone. And also at the end, when you have a question, please wait until Taylor can get to you with a microphone so that we can all hear the question. All right? Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so just everybody have an opportunity to look at the review of the minutes from last month? Yes, so move to approve the minutes.
Did the minor corrections we put in that I gave you?
Okay, so I'll move to
Second.
approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. You got it, Rita.
Alrighty, and I'm wearing a mask just because school started, sports has started, and as there's already cases in school, I just want to be careful.
We're being cautious.
Alrighty, I feel like I'm sitting lower than normal. Anyway, okay. For July, our total revenue was $483,935. Our total expenses was $395,541. Our net income for the month was $89,226,000, which is better than budget by $26,000. We're roughly $235,000 better than budget for the year so far. While I'm on that question, I received a question asking how our net income to date compared to the previous year. And for 2021, we are better than budget by $473,000, and for 2020, we are better than budget by $386,000. The largest variance in July, actuals to forecast, was the plug that I had for the architect. We've taken more time to decide on that just to consult with other firms for bids, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I know previously we mentioned the electric the last 2 months, but we are still over budget in total of $40,000 for the year in electric. Our Georgia Power account manager did mention this week that they have proposed a 12% increase for next year. So in budgeting alone, that will have an impact of roughly $56,000 that we'll have to reevaluate. Overall, we had a decent month really in regards to expenses for July. In dining, our temporary labor decreased by $30,000 as we're hiring more permanent employees, and our food costs were also down by $10,000, giving an overall better outlook for dining over June of $46,000. Any questions on that? For dining, we did serve 5,903 meals in July. A new seasonal menu will roll out October 1st. Starting next week, we'll start the training process with the Morrison's manager on importing and using the POS system. Also coming up, we will be offering soups for sale by the gallon and quarts, and they will not go against your meal allowance. And last month I mentioned what months we had covered, our HOA dues had covered our expenses. I just kind of wanted to keep a tally of that. And in July, our HOA dues did cover our monthly expenses, not excluding PCC.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question on that, Rita. When we I meant to ask it before, but when we look at the revenues, the administrative income, right? I'm assuming that that income is the number that we use, right? To cover all of the expenses.
Right. What I've been using is the HOA revenue and the condominium fees and admin.
Yeah.
And then you also have to add back in the $44,000 for dining because that is part of your HOA.
Okay.
So that's the revenue that I'm taking. I'm not taking any extra revenue from admin.
Okay. Okay, so you're not taking extra admin revenue.
Mhm.
You're simply using the dues and then the meal allowance.
Right, the
Right.
meal allowance. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, I'm also taking out the depreciation
Yeah.
as well. Let's see, our D&O insurance renewed in August, and it was roughly the same amount it was in 2021 of $19,000. But given the current legal status and the savings there, our broker did say that should be better shopped out next year. We also shopped out our employee benefits as our plan renews October 1st, and the premiums are increasing by 4%. Which is not horrible. Any questions on any of that? Moving on to cash. The forecast is projected to have a positive cash flow at the end of the year by $131,570, which we're showing that will be positive for every month the remainder of the year. We currently have $1,332,803 in our capital account, $316,990 in our operating cash, for a total cash of $1,649,793. Since January of 2022, we have increased our cash roughly by $600,000.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna comment on. That looks great. The other thing that I would comment on too, Rita, is the capital account. Sorry, is the capital account, because just counting it, I guess it was February 21 to March of 21, it actually went down, right? But for what looks to be about 17 straight months, that capital account has gone up,
Yes.
which is really good, which is really positive.
Yes. Yeah, we're probably about $450,000 in addition to that.
Oh, good.
I will say our federal and state tax returns for 2021 have been completed. The cost for that filing was $750 for the accountant's time. With the prior year's losses, they're offsetting the $76,000 of income this year, so there's no income tax due to the feds. Georgia still has a net worth tax, so we are liable for $1,250 that's due with that return. Any comments on that, guys? Moving on to sales and leasing. I've been asked to publish all the condos that have sold this year and their sale price. I know that this is public knowledge if you research it. I don't see a problem with it, but I want the board's opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Maybe the leasing price.
I wasn't asked that, I was just asked
Yeah.
for the condos that have sold and their amount.
Yeah, I think that that's appropriate.
Okay.
Public knowledge, we should know. Just looking at the report. I'm only
Right,
commenting.
so what I'll do is I'll just include that in there each month and just update it accordingly. Yeah. In sales and leasing, we currently have 4 units for sale, with one of them being for sale or lease and one for lease. We've moved about 30 condos so far this year, so it's been busy, seems like. Okay, that's all I have for that area. Moving on to board review. We've got several things for building update that is not on here. In our NOVA report, if you recall, we had a section in there regarding the cables on the parking deck. We've gotten a quote for that, and I'll let Scott explain that better.
The situation there is that if you've walked up on the deck, with the upper parking deck, you may see something that looks like some rebar surfacing on the surface of the deck coming out of the concrete. These are actually tension cables that are stretched from one side of the deck to the other. When the concrete is poured and after it sets, they put tension on these cables. Each one of those cables has 27,000 pounds. 27,000 pounds of tension on it. And the surface of the concrete has worn off to where the cable is starting to show. We need to cover that with a proper kind of covering and protect them from future wear and from the sunlight. So we have obtained a price to do that, and for all we're involved with there, it's a very reasonable quote of $8,550 to correct and cover all those cables before there's a major problem and one would break. These cables have broken in other parking decks, and we don't need that happening here. So I would move that we accept the quote and have these cables properly protected.
Yeah, this is an item that we originally had in the capital area, but Rick's concerned about it.
I mean, I'll second it. That's fine. Okay, everybody in favor? Aye.
Boiler update, I know I put this out on August 11th, but the boiler is due here by the end of this month, but installation is not scheduled until September 16th. I'd also said that it would not require the water to be turned off. However, we do have a few valves that we would like to repair while we're doing that, so we may have some inconvenience of water off that day. We'll correspond with you accordingly closer to time. Scott, I think you had EV chargers, and I know a couple of residents had mentioned it and emailed about it. We've engaged with Georgia Power and a couple different companies. They've been out, they've looked at, taking up 2 parking spots, which would give us 4 chargers. They install the equipment, it's no cost to us. They get the revenue from it. However, I don't like the fact that they want us to sign a 10-year contract. I don't think we should sign a 10-year contract with anybody. So we're looking further into that. They will not reduce their contract. So.
That's a private company?
Yes.
Okay, as
With
opposed to
getting the grants, right. Georgia Power gives $500 grant right now to have it installed, and then you've got power cost and so forth associated. There's more grants coming, but those are not released. So I would rather wait a bit and get the full grants, or find a different provider that is not interested in wanting a large contract.
Yeah. Okay.
On the contract, would they have a separate meter that they are paying the electricity, or do they tie into our system?
They're tying in, so you know where the wooden fence is?
Right.
Over there, they're tying into that pole over there.
Yeah, but do they pay Georgia Power separately, or do we pay the power bill and they collect the money?
They pay it separately.
They pay it separately,
Mhm.
okay.
Let's see, garage lights. We've talked about that, I think, the last 2 board meetings. I know you've kind of explored that further. Okay.
I came over the other evening at about 11 o'clock when I knew it was going to be dark, and walked around back there with the garage and for the deck up above. The garage, in my opinion, is well lit at 11 o'clock at night. The entrance to the building, the walkway from the garage to the building, is poorly lit. And we need to put in some lighting for the entrance walkway. And we will be, I've been talking to Rick about that, and he is putting that on his list of to-dos, so we just need to bump it up on his list.
Does that require equipment, or is that, because the other issue was about getting a lift?
Right, this
was
is-
it?
Yeah, the issue for the upper lights is something we still have to talk about. But the lighting going into the hallway, the walkway, does not require special
Okay,
equipment.
all right, so we can just get that done.
We can just get that done. Rick can do that. Rick and his crew.
Yeah, and while we're on the project list, other projects around the building, you know, the pressure washing we usually do several times a year, touch up paint. We've been short-staffed, but we did hire one more full-time and a part-time maintenance person this week. Yay. So you probably noticed that since yesterday, we've already started pressure washing again, so that'll be a big improvement. Scott, you wanted to talk about the Chase Committee?
The Chase Committee, we've had a real formal meeting where we have come back to asking several contractors to rebid the pricing. We are going to, are in the process of developing a list to get consistent bidding from the different contractors. And we will be putting that out to them to get the, like I said, consistent bidding to where all of them are bidding on the same items, and we can then do a good comparison. In the process of doing that, we will be taking one of the condo units on the first floor and removing the stucco that's there and run a sample of how it should be done. So you'll see some activity going on in the next few weeks, more likely, because we've got to get the coordination and everybody set up to make sure we are going to do this in the most efficient fashion and get the best results that are possible.
Did you have anything else that I didn't include in the list?
I think we're good on most of this.
Okay. Board business?
Good.
Anybody have anything on the board?
No, anything else business? Well, okay, sorry about that. I think that the only thing that I've just mentioned, while we haven't formally done anything, obviously, it's August is the time where we start to assemble a nominating committee. We'll do that. We haven't got a plan at this point, but we'll get to that, this month in terms of putting out an announcement on the elections, that type of thing, and maybe a process about that. So we'll come back on that. I just wanted to mention it to the board.
Okay. And I would also recommend that our finance group start meeting to start working on the budget for next year.
Oh, yeah.
I've already started my file, but.
Well, you know what, the good news about the budget, right, is we have gotten ourselves into the habit of forecasting, right? So we know where we are. We have floated out there last year the notion of a 5-year plan on dues. I think that we still have issues with inflation. So if you think about it, last month it was about 8.5. We had forecasted 7.5. That's what we did with the budgeting from last year. It was 9.1 at one point, 8.5 last month. Maybe it'll come down a little bit more. Maybe we'll settle in because it is a trailing amount, right? So maybe we'll settle in at the 7.5 and all will be good. A couple of things for next year, we'll be keeping an eye on what we think will happen. It does look like right now that we're going to get maybe some relief. I can't, obviously I'm not ready to say that I know what that relief is going to look like, but I did see potential COLA payments at about 9.1. So if there's it's not that I want to go after COLA, right? I don't want to do that at all. But the reality of the situation is we forecasted 5 for the upcoming year. I don't know if that'll hold true, but if there's a COLA increase of 9 and we can still manage the 5, that's a really good opportunity for everybody. It's sort of a cheap way of doing it in a sense. So, more to come. We'll have to do that, and we'll start planning out that starting in September. So.
questions? Okay, glasses are fogged up.
That's it for me.
I'm gonna go into the questions. The only questions I received was the one I addressed earlier and the list that I forwarded you guys earlier. Number one, what has happened to the $122,000 that was disputed? That was the disputed amount over the not to exceed amount in the contract. Did we pay, or did I hear board chair say we would not pay the excess cost? Was it rolled over and included in the current contract?
You have the answers to that, right?
Yeah, so, basically we did an analysis, from March of '21, I carried it all the way to June of '22, and we ended up paying all but 31,000 some odd dollars, because a lot of the dispute came into the second year contract. As you can see in June, they brought their temporary labor down by hiring permanent employees. Their food cost is coming down. We actually have a meeting in the morning to further discuss what we're gonna do the remainder of the year to try to stay in budget.
So if nothing else, there was certainly a reaction to it.
Right, right.
And hopefully that looks like a new run rate for us,
Mhm.
right? Which is $25,000 to $30,000 less a month than we were paying.
Right. And
Doesn't mean it's cheap. It doesn't mean that we're where we want to be.
Not at all.
I don't want to pretend that that's the case. I just want to suggest that it has we've seen a little bit of daylight here now.
And we should see more temp labor coming down for August as well. But reality is we've still got to use some. What is the cost of the Morrison's contract for 3/2022 to 3/2023? Give both the contract amount and the not to exceed amount. The contract amount would be $1,316,399.74. The not to exceed amount would be $1,467,750. What is the percent of increase in the contract from one year to the current year? The contract states a 3% increase, but the fringe benefits increase, as stated in section 10.5 of the contract, states that within 60-day notice, this can be increased based on the ECI. For 2022 and 2023, that was 2.1%. That's what it is down there.
Good.
That's it.
I think it's important at this point in time, though, to also state that this not to exceed number is kind of a pipe dream, because if you remember, the contract has a clause in there that says there's no guarantee of pricing. Even though their wording in the contract says not to exceed, there's a contract paragraph that has there's no guarantee on pricing, there's no guarantee on service, there's no guarantee on food quality, all in the contract. So, yes, like Rita said, there's going to be a meeting that she has tomorrow trying to get things in line, but don't hang your hat on a not to exceed.
Yeah, one thing that what we should look at, we're doing a sort of an in-year forecast, but what we should do is take a look at that 1 year forecast, look at a forecast for them over the 12-month period of the contract, right? So that we know, to your point, where we think that's going to be before we get to a point where we stop and dispute like we did last year, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing that in advance will be a better way to manage that, so.
Right. That's all the questions that I had. So move to the floor questions?
It was number 4, bottom. You took-
Don't hit another one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should Morrison's not be able to operate within the contracted amount, are there discussions regarding alternatives?
So the answer to that is all of our options are open, and we always discuss options. And so that's going on right now. I wouldn't give any more detail on any of that, because you just, want to keep all of our options open, so.
Okay. Any questions from the floor?
Yeah.
see that way.
I'll come to you with a microphone. It's on.
I have a couple of questions, and I'll give you one at a time. In connection with the comment about the repair of the garage roof area with the cables, I happen to be one of the lucky people that has a leak on my car. It has been for quite some time. It's been repaired. I think there are about 6 feet worth of repairs over my car, and it's right up to the light. So the light's been taken out because it can't be fixed there. Rick has said that he wants to put a large patch area over the top on the surface of the top level, which would hopefully cover that. So that's still pending. With those leaks, and I think there are a few other leaks from the roof, but not huge. Mine I think is the worst. But is that kind of a situation going to be addressed at all when you talk about the cable area?
No, that overcoating to cover the leaks that are up there is not included with this. But this needs to be done prior to some kind of an overcoating of everything up there anyway. So this is in effect the first step.
Right, we did the overcoating, I think it's maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and I've got maintenance working on all the items they see up and coming for next year for the budget, and that's on Rick's list, because there's about 5 parking spaces that's experiencing that.
Okay. The second thing is also on facility and decor. It's related to the carpet on the floors. My understanding is that the carpet that we initially put on 1, 8, 9, and 10 is super expensive now
Yes.
to get that. And we have planned on facility and decor to move to the black and beige carpet that we have on 2, 4, 5, and 7 gradually. But and I sort of heard that the cost of getting that carpet would be a good bit less. I'm just wondering what the thoughts are on moving forward with 1, 8, 9, and 10, and also 3 and 6 that have not been done yet. And when that's decided, I'm wondering if getting a whole bunch of carpet might be cheaper for all of that than just piecemeal.
My first comment is on 1, 8, 9, and 10, the light colored carpet from Occupied Renovations. We have a few pieces left, but we've got several that we're trying to swap out, especially on the 9th floor. Somebody got happy with bleach, and I called to get a pallet of that carpet, and it has went up to $6,337 for 160 tiles, which is doubled from the last pallet we got. So I would kind of refrain from buying that pallet until we decide on what we're going to do for the floors, because the carpet's not held up at all.
Yeah. It's 160 pieces in a pallet, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have 2 questions. There was no cash management in our handouts. Where is our capital cash parked these days? I am assuming, because the last time I looked, the certificates of deposit were expiring. So where is it?
Right, so all of the CDs that expired, we moved over to the money market, so it's just liquid cash. It's in the money market.
Okay, so.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Looking at where it was at in the in the CDs versus where it's at now, we have gained almost $30,000 in interest income this year.
Okay,
From
so
liquid, yes.
I know we're solvent because that's what the reports say.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting with the way the cash market is, where we've got our money. And the other question is, where do we stand on getting a replacement for Mr. Lang?
For Bill?
Yes.
Well, we had a discussion about that today and in our executive session, and I think we're debating exactly what it is that we want to do. we've got a couple of folks who have initially expressed some interest to help out, and we got a couple of conversations to have still, and then we'll get back to you as soon as we make a decision as to whether or not we're going to actually replace Bill or not. We've got 3 or 4 months left in the year, and so, it's just a matter of making a practical decision about it.
My name is Al Burgess, and my wife and I, Joanne, have just moved in. Oh, my name is Al Burgess, and my wife is Joanne. We just moved in, so we're still trying to find doors and restrooms. First, I want to comment on the board. I think it's great that you guys are doing this. It's really it's a very difficult job, and I understand that. And I heard a lot of good things. I really have only 2 simple questions at this point. Do we have access to balance sheets? Can we get a copy of the balance sheets? And do we have access to board minutes?
Go ahead. I mean,
Yeah.
both are available, so.
Right, yes, the board minutes, you can actually get those online, go to our website in the owner's portal. I can give you the information on that, and all the board minutes are posted on there after they're approved. I can get with you and show you that. And the balance sheet, if you're an owner, you can just request it.
So it's just a request, right? We don't keep the balance sheet on the owner's portal?
No,
Okay.
because it's, what I post today could change tomorrow.
Well,
But would-
that's true.
Yeah,
It's
it would
a balance
change
sheet.
tomorrow.
Well,
So-
you know that, so if you want a copy of the current balance sheet, just ask.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you finished answering Dave's question. Do you have any idea when the 3rd and 6th floor might get renovated?
What exactly were we waiting on? I know we had talked about.
Right, our thought was to take the carpet that we're
Yeah.
gonna get in from the other 2 floors and kind of use that for that floor.
Mhm.
That's the part, I'm just be honest, I'm very unhappy with Parker Young. I've reached out, copied Scott on it several times. We're not getting anywhere. I did leave a message for a QC person at Foxbury, on Monday, just because I don't have a name. So,
But that's with respect to the carpet.
right, so.
But we had been discussing, and I don't know where it is right now, but we had discussed freshening up some of it in the meantime, right? So I just don't know where we are with that.
Well, we discussed using the carpet and then painting and then doing the ceiling tiles later, at a later date. So, really, it's only the freshening up we could do right now would be to paint.
I think where our problem is, and where we have moved on it, is we have not gotten a positive response from Parker Young on how they are handling the situation with Foss. And we're trying to get Foss to get the carpet on site. And then once we have the carpet on site, we'll be able to put the rest of this into motion. But right now, we're still trying to get this carpet situation that they have committed to us verbally, but we haven't seen it physically happen.
I would move to, getting legal involved, because I went back and it's been several months. So getting legal involved, we paid them, we want our warranty to be implemented, so.
That's a commitment that they made to us, right?
Mhm.
Because of the issue. So that they're really, it's a question of us trying to enforce the commitment at this point.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, so if we need to send them a letter, we need to send them a letter. What we could do is send a demand notice, right? And then if we don't get met on the demand, then we'll take another step.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sure you told us before, but how do we get into the owner's portal on the website?
Where there's a password if you log on the website, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see owner's login. And when it comes up, you'll put the password in. It's only for owners, so I'll have to get that to you separately.
Yep. Why don't you resend the password to all
Okay.
owners?
Okay.
Has the emergency call system been tested in each of the 300 condos yet? We talked about that 2 or 3 board needs to go.
And I forgot to check on that schedule. Of course, they're not checked all at one time, but they are on a schedule.
But the intent is to test each of the 3
Right.
change buttons or whatever.
And they are, they're not all done at one time, but they are on a schedule. Somebody will sit at the front desk while somebody else pulls it to see if it lights up.
Okay.
I will check on that though.
And on the agenda, item number 3, we didn't talk about. I and others would like to hear.
Oh, the collection policy.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a collection policy. We went through it in some excruciating
Yes.
detail, and I think that the board has all agreed to what that policy is going to be. We have to now take those notes and edits, and I believe, Janice, you've got that, and I would say we will have a collection policy out to everyone in the next, within the next week, let's say.
Yes,
That-
it'll go to
that's fair?
all owners and residents.
Right, and so we'll have that published in the next week for everybody, and it'll be effective September 1st. Right, that's the agreement that we
And this is collection for the HOA, is that correct?
Right, it's a collection policy for any bill that you may have due to us.
Okay.
One follow-up on the carpet. When you're checking with FOSS on the pricing, because I know that back when we were doing 2, 4, 5, and 7, as I recall, the cost of that carpet was a good bit less than what we put on 1, 8, 9, and 10. Because of course the performance of that carpet was excellent in terms, and that's what I've seen. It looks like it's continuing to be. But I was curious as to, since we've got this high cost of the carpet for 1, 8, 9, and 10, when we're talking to them about 3 and 6, I'm wondering if it might be of interest to ask them, okay, what if we do 3, 6, 1, 8, 9, and 10? How much would the carpet cost if we did all of that and bought all the carpet for that? It might significantly come down where it might be worth doing that. So just a thought.
Yeah, we could certainly get a cost on it.
We can always price that out, and that's a good thought, David, yeah.
Any other questions? Yep.
I would like to see our pool area have better maintenance. I think for the first time this year, the pool deck has been blown off thoroughly. Perhaps that was because the lawn people were out there cutting the shrubs, and they had to go on the pool deck. Prior to that, it was very, very dirty, particularly around the box where the noodles are kept. The flower buds were caked there, and of course the bird droppings and all of that. You could not walk on it without getting your feet or shoes filthy. That needs to have better upkeep, and someone needs to be assigned to do that pool deck weekly. Also, the cushions are not blown off. Now, they blew them off after a fashion today as I was coming to the meeting. But to my knowledge, that's the first time this year. Well, no,
April.
maybe they were blown off after the pollen fell. Well, after the pollen fell, our sofa outside the dining room was blown off. I had to go back out and ask them to pick the cushions up and to do the job right. So that, after I went out, they did lift the cushions up. But the sofa outside our dining room is pretty dirty. You can't sit on it without having your clothes messed up. So I'd like for someone to be appointed to do that, to do the dusting of the furniture, blowing it off, and to do our pool deck weekly. Now, also, in addition to that, I'd like to know when we're going to have another telephone directory. The last one that was printed was in March 21.
I do them every single month. They're at on the day the floor meeting is there on the second Friday of every month. I do a floor by floor and a phone directory, which is alphabetical listing, and they're at the front desk.
You do a 4x4 and what?
It's called an alphabetical listing, which is the phone listing.
Yeah.
And they're at the front desk on the second Friday of every single month.
Wait a minute, you publish it the second Friday of every month?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then I've asked down there and they said, we don't have it.
Okay. I'll refer that over to the front desk and let them know that the phone listing is the alphabetical listing. We call it alphabetical listing. Maybe that's where they're getting confused.
They've told me constantly since last year that they don't have a listing of our phone numbers.
It is up there. I'll let them know, but we call it the alphabetical listing.
Okay, can you also look after our pool deck?
Yes, so I mentioned earlier that our pressure washing is really lagged this year. We did it in April and we've not really had the manpower, so we've hired another full-time maintenance tech and a part-time maintenance tech that's kind of doing some co-op, and they started pressure washing yesterday, but the entire facility, the front circle, the pool, outside the dining room, the PCC porch, everything needs to be thoroughly gone through.
Well, I do think that it could be done more than once a year.
Oh yeah, we normally would do it once a quarter as far as pressure washing.
Yes.
Rita, correct me if I'm not right, monthly, Rita has a floor rep meeting, and the floor reps receive some type of a roster.
The floor by floor. Mm-hmm. And that's when I also do the alphabetical listing, because it all comes from the same file.
Okay, so they are available if you want to check with your floor rep. They could get you a copy.
I have the ninth floor, but I don't have the whole building. The last one I
Well, the
have-
whole building is given to the floor reps. So it is available, is what I'm saying.
She told me she didn't have it.
After this, go to the front desk and I'll get you one.
But there are several ways that you can get a roster, is what I'm making the point.
With reference to the pool decks, Reed, I don't see why the landscape boys can't blow off the pool deck every week. They're the ones with the blowers. Would this be too much multitasking?
Well, I mean, they're not paid for it, so would you go to someone's house and cut their lawn and say, oh, I'm just gonna blow off all your parking decks and your pool decks? Sure, if we wanna pay them to do it, I'm sure they will.
Well, who could we get to blow it off?
Well, our
Does
maintenance
have blowers?
Well, why don't we just ask what did it cost to?
Yeah, that's
to
what I'm
do
saying. If
on
we
their
wanna,
weekly routine or whatever they
Yeah.
do, just to ask.
Well, because those crepe myrtles drop.
I don't know why those type of plants were planted around a pool, or trees, I mean, whatever they're called.
Well, they probably need to be brought down. Crepe myrtles are beautiful plants when they bloom, right? They're annoying when they shed,
annoying.
right?
When they shed, yes.
And so it's like sort of the devil that you know what it
Yeah,
is.
I'll
It looks
email
great.
Josh today and ask him, how much would it cost us to have them blow that off every single week?
I mean, it's a 5-minute job. Give me the blower. I'll blow it off.
Well,
Yeah, let's just.
With reference to our outside furniture, I volunteered quite a while ago to meet with one of our maintenance boys to show them when they show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, could they just please put our furniture where it's supposed to be? So that's, I think, one reason we got rid of that heavy furniture is that the residents could not move it. But even this is a problem for a person in a wheelchair. And if someone on staff could just every morning do a walkthrough, put it back in order, and in addition, some of the new needs maintenance as well, cleaning.
I'll just make a comment. My first comment on that is that if we move furniture around, we should put it back, okay? That's number one. Second, if something seems to be out of sorts, and if somebody's from our management group sees that, then we can try to put
Yeah,
it
but
back.
I can't
Right.
dedicate them to do that every morning first
Right.
thing.
I move it every time I see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
That's what happens.
but
People
it's,
sit down and move it
it's,
over and-
you know, it's folks use it, move it, and then they don't put it back, right? So,
Yeah.
any other questions? Yep, we got another one?
On the list that you're making up of the floors and things, someone said the other day that you used to put dates on the top showing when it was, because they had one that was like 4 months old.
There is a date on every single one of them. It's the date of the floor up meeting.
Well, it must not be copying, because I saw it. The person that showed it to me, there was no date on, at the top.
When I print them out for the floor ups, I print like 70 of them out at one time and put them at the front desk, so they all have the same thing, information on it.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, sorry, but I just.
Rita, would it be possible to post that file on the owners only website, so those of us that have computers, we can just go in there and check for a phone number?
Yeah.
Good suggestion, actually, very good suggestion.
Keeping up to date season.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, if I print out 70, that's 7,000 pages of paper and ink.
Yeah.
And literally.
Okay. Oh, a late entry. All right, Alan.
Talking about availability, the dining room permanent menus were given to us weeks ago, a copy, but never since. So many people did not save it or what. Couldn't we not put that on channel 17, the permanent dining room menus, so people could look it up?
It's not possible. Channel 17, you can't import, you can't save a file, you have to type everything, and you can't do it in legal, and it's also in landscape. So to have all the menu on there, you would have probably 70 pages that's going to scroll through, because it only holds very small piece of that program.
Well, maybe we just have to put out another issue and say, save this for the next 6 months or something.
Well, it's the menus in the dining room. I mean,
Can we post it on the bulletin board in the mailroom?
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's copies in the,
Let's post it in the
200 copies in
mailroom.
the dining room. It's this menu to sit down and look at every day.
Okay. All right, so before we adjourn, there are a couple of, oh, we got one more?
Hey, excuse me. Since everyone's complaining about certain things, I'm gonna chime in with Ann. And the pool, we're missing an umbrella. It's just disgusting out there. Furniture has been moved, tables, it makes no sense as far as spacing out and visiting. You're right there on top of other people when you're trying to have a conversation. It's crazy.
Yeah. Maybe we should make the furniture permanent to where it can't be moved.
I don't think that's necessary. I think it's actually this year. Can you hear me okay?
Framing guy.
And the upper back deck parking lot, for at least 5 months or more, the lights have gone out. They're all completely out. Thank goodness there are green kind of dull lights that shine because all the other lights are out, which also makes it darker below.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about that for the last couple of months.
Yes, and the dog walk is very dark when those lights are out. I take a flashlight out if I'm walking later at night. And that little shed back there near the dog walk, the parking area, has 2 lights on it. They've never been lit. I don't know if that's possible to just light them as we exit to go to the dog walk. And the dog walk, the sidewalk was pressure washed, thank goodness, thank you, because of blueberries or something. And but when that was done, then all the dead, yucky pine straw was pushed to either side. So now we have a path of dirt on both sides of the sidewalks. And all the way around the fencing, it's full of weeds. It just, when we can get to it, it needs attention, it needs pressure washing in other areas. And we're constantly in and out of that basement, and just, some things are just very neglected. So anyway, you know, if we can help out, we will.
When you say fencing, you mean the fencing around the retainer pond and the Trader Joe's area?
Pardon me?
When you say fencing, are you talking about around the retainage pond or the Trader Joe's area?
As far as what?
The fencing that you're talking about, the weeds in the fence.
The what, I'm sorry?
It's around the dog weeds.
Around the dog park?
The weeds, the dog walk's not bad, but, well, I'll give you an example. Last year when they laid the pine straw, well, the weeds are all around the parking lot where the fence is, and
Okay,
we walk our dogs. And plus there, where the air conditioner is, I mean, things are just very neglected. There's like weeds you can pull up, or it's all in the pine straw next to the building, the back of the building, as we enter and exit to the storage where the grocery carts are, that door. But last year when they laid the pine straw, they did a beautiful job. I know about that because my husband was in the business. But one thing that didn't make sense to me is, why did they lay pine straw over the pretty pebbles that lead into the dog walk? And so I swear,
Because the
next
committee
day we had a
suggested it.
storm or something, and the pine straw blew up to the fence as we enter, and it has stayed. And now it's full of leaves and sticks and so neglected. Can you agree with me?
The pine straw was laid over the pebbles because that was what the committee voted on. The landscape committee voted on that.
They have
The
not put
previous
new
one.
pine straw down, and now it's mostly dirt and feces, which we're trying to avoid, but they have not put new pine straw down. And it's a.
Right,
very
in
good-
their contract, we pay for pine straw once a year. Reed and I actually brought this up and asked Josh for the upcoming year to put in the cost to lay pine straw more than once a year. But previously, he's only been contracted to lay it once a year.
Yeah, my thinking would be, if you can buy 2 bales and just lay them to the right of the sidewalk where it was blown away or walking in dirt, 2 bales. But the rest in the back we can deal with. It's not nice, it's pretty nasty, but it's full of weeds and sticks and pine cones, but.
Do you know what they're talking about, Pat?
I have, yeah.
I can't think of where they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, no
Do you know
problem.
where they're talking about, Reed?
We can handle that. We'll get that handled.
Can I ask a question? Would it be expensive or whatever, instead of putting pine straw in the dog park, if you just planted grass? I mean,
That's a great idea, Julie, except dog urine kills grass.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna conclude the Q&A for now. So just a couple of things before we adjourn. You know, the first thing is, I think we all know that Bill is leaving. That came out, and I had sent out a note a couple of weeks ago on that. And, you know, so first thing I wanted to do publicly was thank you for all the hard work that you have put in as board members since you started in January 2 years ago. Without you, I can't see alone the board having turned around some of the issues that we had to face, whether it was, the cash, the taxes, the financials, to work on the budgets, and so I just wanted to, make sure that I personally want to let you know how much help you have been. Thank you, and you will be missed.
Well, I want to say thank you for your comments, and I want to say thank you to all of you, because I have so very much enjoyed serving on this board, very much enjoyed living here, and I've made some people I know very well, some I don't know well at all, but I know a lot of faces, more faces than I know names, and I have certainly enjoyed knowing and seeing each one of you. And I will think about you often.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Bill. The second thing that I want to mention, which people may or may not know, I know how rumors go here very fast, faster than they actually originate. But many of you may know or don't know that Taylor is going to be leaving us in September 2nd. Here is what I want to say about that, and I think it's really important. Taylor has grown up. She was a baby, became a teen, started working at Mount Vernon Towers probably about 7 years ago. I think that's probably right. You grew up here, you've grown into a young lady, a professional young lady with high potential. With very high potential. I've got to know and work with you for the last 3 years. I know that sometimes it must be really, really, really difficult to work here. Okay? As we age, I will quote my fellow board member, as we age, we get tired and cranky. And so, to deal with that, when I think about 7 years here and what you've accomplished, while you may not be as seasoned as you will become, and you may not have been as seasoned as people would want you to be, but you have got twice the seasoning that a young adult would have. And you shall leave a great gap here. And we really, and I know I'm speaking for more than I,
yes,
but you will be missed. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you.
Keep fun.
So, thank you, Taylor. With that, I guess I'll call for an adjournment.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor? 232? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
And when's the next meeting?